Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. Now there will be an 8 o'clock live show, but I felt I had to react to Ruben Amorim's comments about his formation change because I found it so full of holes, but also full of truth. So look, I make no apologies. Obviously we're going to get the normal comments saying, oh, you're so negative. I don't think it's negative to scrutinise a manager with a win ratio below 40%, where we're not taking advantage of something that's very obvious, that is Champions League football there in front of us, and we are technically struggling, and he comes out with a comment about why he hasn't changed his formation, because he doesn't want to change his formation because the media and the fans will win, but he's now changing the formation because the players are doing well in his other formation. I'm a little bit confused, so I want to break it down to you. But first of all, I just want to say, the top comment on Beth's press conference was this. Hopefully Goldbridge, other fans and the journalists can finally get over the system and formation, as he reminded everyone that he said he will change once the team understands the core principles. It's like the formation merchants don't actually listen to anything he says about formation and system. Hopefully you lot can shut up about it now. Well, first of all, you've made yourself look a right prat, because I've not spoken about the formation in the way that everybody else has. There has been a lot of fans and there has been a lot of media saying change the formation. I actually said don't change the formation. I actually said he shouldn't change the formation, because if he does that, that's the end of him, which is exactly what Amorim said in the interview today. What I have said in the last 2 days is, having seen the back four against Newcastle, I want to play that. But for the last 8 months, I've said don't change the formation because you undermine yourself, which is exactly what Ruben Amorim said. This is what Ruben Amorim has said today. Give us your comments and I'll give you my thoughts. So he said, when I came here last season, I understood I don't have the players to play well in the system, but it was the beginning of a process. We were trying to build an identity. Today is a different moment. We don't have a lot of players and we need to adapt so they understand why we are changing. So he's basically saying, I came here to play my way. I didn't have the players and it was the start of a process. A year later, I have less players, so I've adapted my formation and the players understand why I've done that. It's not because of the pressure of you or the fans. When the media or the fans talk about changing the system all the time, I cannot change because the players will understand I'm changing because of you and think that is the end of the manager. So effectively what he's saying is he's changed the formation because of the AFCON. And if he changed the formation 2 months ago or 6 months ago, he basically may as well quit, because he'd be changing the formation because of the media and the fans. And the reason he's changed his formation now is because of lack of players, because of the AFCON and injury to Bruno. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I've consistently said he shouldn't change his formation because if he does, without good reason, he will be undermining himself, because everyone will go, well, that's not what you do. You're now changing it. What are you all about? Which is, again, what Amorim has said himself literally a couple of hours ago. So I agree with him. He can't change his formation because he'll be changing it because of the fans and because of the media. The players will know that, and that'll be the end of him. So he's now changing it because of the AFCON. The problem is, we've had a glimpse of it, and I don't want to go back to his old formation, but by the by. He then sort of complicated and confused it, because he came out with this then. He said, when we're playing well in our system, that is the moment to change. We're going to become a better team because when all the players return, we are not going to play with 3 defenders all the time. So I that's where it sort of confused me, because what his first explanation was made sense. I'm changing the formation now because of the AFCON and injuries to Bruno and Manu, etc. But he then goes on to say, well, also I will change the formation because the players understand the system now and we're doing well in it. Can I just remind you of our fixtures and results since the international break? Everton loss, Everton loss, Crystal Palace win, West Ham draw, Wolves win, Bournemouth draw, Villa loss, Newcastle win. When have we played well in the last 5 weeks apart from the Wolves game? So I don't know what he's talking about, that we can change formation because we now understand and are playing well in the other formation. That sort of confused me. I think the explanation about the AFCON and the injuries and having to adapt to that makes total sense. Him trying to make out that we've mastered the 3-4-3, so now we can go to the back four. I don't think this team can run before it can walk. So I think that's a completely separate thing that he's sort of merged into this. But he did acknowledge that it was a back four against Newcastle. He also acknowledged that it was a back six in the second half, which is what some of us said. But look, I think I said this after the Newcastle game. This will now become a huge topic of conversation for the next 6 months, 6 years maybe, I don't know. But now that he's switched and he's explained why he's done it, will he stick with that? The reason I'm playing a back four is because I don't have my players. When my players come back, I'm going to stick to it. Is he hinting at that? Or is he going to go back to the 3-4-3? Now, if he goes back to the 3-4-3 and he's winning games, he should be okay. If he goes back to the 3-4-3 and we don't win games, then people are not going to be very happy. And if the players come back and he goes to a back four, you've just sold a lot of players that suit a back four and bought a load of players that suit a 3-4-3. So it's going to be intriguing. And you know what? I think some people do get very tired and do get very stressed about the formation chat. But there's only one entity that's responsible for this, and that's the ownership and the board that decided, after decades of Manchester United being a back four side, we were going to go to some 3-4-3 thing that we've never played before, that was always going to be hard on the eye and was always going to be hard to get used to. So I understand the scrutiny and conversation about formation, but as I've always said, the minute he changes for whatever reason, it elongates the argument. It opens the debate even more. So much so that up until Boxing Day, I would have said, don't change your formation. You're just going to cause yourself a load of trouble. Now that I've seen that back four, I just want to see it again. I do. I want to see it tomorrow against Wolves. I want to see it against Leeds. I want to see it against Man City next month. I just want to see us play a back four. Most of these players who are playing in the AFCON are playing in a back four. You know, most of these players, when they go and play for their international teams, are playing in a back four. Most of these players perform better in a back four. Now, not to the extent that we're going to win the league. You know, that's not going to happen. We've sacked managers playing a back four, Ollie, Rangnick, Ten Hag. But it is interesting, and it is certainly going to open up some debate. And look, you know what? I'll leave it to the comments, but I think sometimes you just got to listen to what's being said. He's basically saying that he's changed the formation because of the AFCON. And he couldn't change it before because otherwise he may as well leave, which I agree with, which is what I've been saying and some of you've been saying for the last 8 months. You can't recruit a 3-4-3 manager and then get him to change to a back four. You may as well have recruited a back four manager. So it's going to be really interesting. Results are always going to be the thing that makes it easier on Amorim. When he doesn't get results, then that's when it becomes problematic. And I personally don't see how you can play a back four and pick Bruno Fernandes. And we saw in the interview again, he just cannot stop talking about Bruno. I mean, he's absolutely obsessed with this player. This player is so important to him. He talks about him in every bloody interview since he's been injured. And that's fine. But, you know, he's talking about how he's there. You know, he's after his job. He's, you know, joking. He's like, you know, he's at training. He wants to come back training. He's shouting orders, this, that, and the other. You know, he's a great leader. And I'm sort of like sat there going, like, you need to find a way to get this player in his right position then. Because you're playing him out of position. And you say he's a great leader. But as a captain, his win ratio is the same as yours. Not very good. So you need to find a way to get this great player that you talk about all the time and that many of us think is an important player. You've got to get him as a number 10. How do you get Bruno as a number 10 in a back four system when you've already got Cunha, when you've already got Mount? So it's going to be very interesting to see whether he goes back to the 3-4-3, because I absolutely do not think you can play a back four and then play Bruno in the midfield too. You know, you're losing a defender and you're losing a midfielder by playing Bruno there. I don't think it would work. Just on the win ratio at the moment, by the way, I can't figure this out. So we've won 8 out of 18. I'm just using the Premier League here. What is 8 out of 18 as a percentage? Here it comes. 44% is our win ratio at the moment in the Premier League. 44%. And we're in the top 4, basically, aren't we? Are we joint 5th? No, we're joint 5th. So, interesting. Obviously, I'm live at 8 o'clock, so we can get into this a little bit more, but I just wanted to react to that because I think there's been a lot of people misinterpreting what he said about the formation. I actually agree with Amorim. I like Amorim. I like his interviews. He causes me stress with when we play. He causes me stress with his substitutions and his selections. I actually find him quite relaxing to listen to and quite encouraging. And I like what he said about the formation, but, you know, it shouldn't be taken out of context. He's basically saying that he can't change his formation because it will be seen as the fans and the media winning, and that makes him lose. But now, with no AFCON, he can change it. And I just wonder if I just wonder if he's... I mean, technically, he could have been playing a 3-4-3 at the weekend. Like, we've got the centre-backs. He could have found a way to still play the 3-4-3. I wonder, and I'll throw this in at the end, do you detect from his interview that he's wanted to go to a back four for a while, but he hasn't done it because the fans and the media would be seen as winning and he feels he'd be seen as losing? Because he's basically saying, we're better with the back four, and I'm doing it because players are missing at the AFCON, but I couldn't do it before because it would make me look weak. And I sort of think, if we'd been playing with the back four from, let's say, September, would we have more points or less? But he is right. He is right. I'm not... that's a hypothetical. I'm not saying he should have changed this formation in September. I'm sure many of you will. But I understand why he hasn't. I've been saying it for months. If he changes that formation without good reason, then everyone would go, well, why is he here anyway? We were right. We were right. I think now he can sort of say, well, I had to change it because of the AFCON and it worked, so I'm going to stick with it. And it's a get out of jail to use it. And I think he does need to stick with it. That's my stance after Newcastle. Anyway, get your comments in below. Let me know your thoughts. We're back at 8 o'clock live, and I'll speak to you on the next one. Take care.